I trusted her with everything, so when I saw my bank account open on her laptop, I felt something in me just drop. So this all started about a year ago, when everything in my life felt steady for once, like nothing was falling apart, which was new for me because I've always been the kind of person who expects something to go wrong eventually. I had a decent job, nothing fancy but stable, I had my own place, and I had her, my younger sister, Alina, who had always been the one person I never questioned. We weren't just siblings, we were close in a way that people usually don't believe when you describe it. We talked almost every day, we shared things I wouldn't tell anyone else, and when our parents passed away a few years back, it was like we became each other's only real family. So yeah, when I say I trusted her, I mean completely, without hesitation, without even thinking twice about it. Around that time, she was going through a rough patch. She had just lost her job, her relationship had ended badly, and she sounded tired all the time, like she was trying to keep it together but barely managing. So naturally, I stepped in. I told her she could stay with me for a while, no pressure, no timeline, just until she got back on her feet. At first, it actually felt good having her around again. The apartment didn't feel so empty, we cooked together, watched random shows late at night, and it almost felt like we had gone back to being kids again, just without the chaos. And I remember thinking, maybe this is what we both needed. But then, little things started to shift, and at first I didn't pay attention because none of it seemed important on its own. She became more private with her phone, which I figured was normal, people need space. She started going out more, sometimes coming back late, sometimes not saying where she'd been, and again, I told myself she deserved her independence, especially after everything she'd gone through. And then there were the small inconsistencies, like stories that didn't quite line up, or moments where she'd pause before answering something simple, like she had to think about it first. But every time I noticed something like that, I pushed it away because questioning her felt wrong, almost like I was betraying her just by doubting. At the same time, my own life started getting complicated, but in a quiet way. Nothing dramatic, just small things that didn't add up. I'd notice money missing from my account, not a lot, just enough to make me think I'd miscalculated. Bills I was sure I'd already paid would show up again. Notifications about logins I didn't recognize, but when I checked, everything looked normal. And I kept telling myself I was just stressed, that I was overthinking, because honestly, what made more sense? That something was seriously wrong, or that I was just being paranoid? One evening, I brought it up casually, not accusing, just mentioning that something felt off with my bank account. And I remember the way she reacted, not panicked, not defensive, just calm, maybe a little too calm. She told me it happens sometimes, that banks make mistakes, that I should call them and not worry so much. And I believed her, because that's what I always did. But then something happened that I couldn't brush off so easily. I came home earlier than usual one day, and the apartment was quiet, which wasn't strange by itself, but there was this feeling, like something had been interrupted. Her room door was slightly open, and I wasn't trying to snoop or anything, I just noticed my laptop on her desk. That didn't make sense, because I never took my laptop out of my room, and I definitely didn't leave it in hers. So I stepped inside, slowly, like I was already expecting something I didn't want to see, and I saw that it was open, the screen still on, and there were tabs I didn't recognize, pages with forms, numbers, account details, my account details. And for a second, I just stood there, not really understanding what I was looking at, because my brain was trying to come up with a normal explanation, something harmless, something that wouldn't break everything I thought I knew. And then I heard the front door open behind me. And when I turned around, she was just standing there in the hallway, holding her keys, looking straight at me, and for a second neither of us said anything because we both understood exactly what was happening without needing to explain it. I remember asking her a very simple question, something like, "What is this?" But my voice didn't sound like mine, it sounded flat, almost calm, like I was trying to keep everything from collapsing all at once. She didn't rush to answer. She closed the door behind her, took off her shoes slowly, like she was buying time, and then she walked closer and looked at the laptop, not even trying to hide it. And that's when I realized she wasn't surprised that I found out. She sighed, sat down on the edge of the bed, and said, "I was going to tell you." And I remember thinking how strange that sounded, because nothing about this felt like something you planned to tell later. So I asked her again, this time more directly, "Why are my accounts open on your screen?" She rubbed her hands together, looked down, and then finally said it, just like that, without drama, without even raising her voice. "I needed money." At first, it didn't fully land. I understood the words, but not what they meant in that moment, because needing money and what I was seeing didn't match in my head. So I asked, "What do you mean you needed money?" And then she started explaining, slowly, like she had already gone through this conversation in her mind 100 times. She said that after she lost her job, things got worse than she told me, that she had debts I didn't know about, loans she couldn't repay, and people who kept calling her, pressuring her. She said she didn't want to burden me, didn't want me to worry, so she tried to fix it herself. And at some point, she realized she had access to my things. That part hit differently. Because it wasn't just that she took something in a moment of desperation, it was that she thought about it, realized she could do it, and then chose to go through with it. I asked her how long this had been going on, and she hesitated again, just for a second, but it was enough. "Since I moved in," she said. So all those small things, the missing money, the strange notifications, the inconsistencies, they weren't random, they weren't mistakes, they were her. I remember sitting down because my legs suddenly didn't feel stable, and I just looked at her, trying to recognize the person in front of me, because she looked the same, sounded the same, but something fundamental had shifted. I asked her how she even got access, and she told me something that honestly hurt more than the money. She said I made it easy. That I reused passwords, that I trusted her with my phone, that she'd seen me log in before, that I never hid anything from her. And she was right. Every single thing she used against me was something I gave freely, because I never imagined I needed to protect myself from her. I asked her how much she took, and she gave me a number, and it wasn't small. It wasn't something I could just ignore or recover from quickly. It was months of work, savings I had built carefully, just gone. And still, the way she spoke, it wasn't cold, but it also wasn't as emotional as I expected. It was like she had already accepted what she did and moved past the part where it felt shocking. She said she planned to pay it back, that she thought she'd fix everything before I noticed, that she just needed time. But the truth was, I had already noticed, I just didn't want to see it. I asked her one last thing, something I think I already knew the answer to, but I needed to hear it anyway. "If I didn't find out, would you have told me?" And she didn't answer right away. She looked at the floor, then at the wall, then back at me, and she shook her head slightly. That was the moment everything became very clear. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about the fact that the one person I trusted without limits had made a choice to take advantage of that trust, repeatedly, calmly, and intentionally. I stood up, walked past her, and went into the living room. I didn't shout, I didn't argue, I didn't even feel angry in that moment, which was the strangest part. It was like something inside me had just shut off. She followed me, asking what I was going to do, saying we could figure it out, that we were family. And I stopped, turned to her, and said, "You need to leave." She tried to argue at first, not aggressively, but insistently, saying she had nowhere to go, that she made a mistake, that I couldn't just throw her out. And maybe if it had been one mistake, one moment, would have reacted differently. But this wasn't one moment. So I walked to the door, opened it, and said it again, a little more firmly, "You need to leave." There was a long silence, and then she went back to her room, packed a bag, not saying much anymore, just moving quietly, like she understood there was nothing left to say that would change anything. When she came back to the hallway, she paused for a second, like she was expecting me to stop her, to say something, to give her another chance. I didn't. She picked up her bag, walked past me, and right before stepping out, she said, very quietly, "I'm sorry." And I answered, just as quietly, "I know." Then she walked out, and I closed the door.